Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I am here to talk about Ezra's birth. So if you are new to my channel, I just gave birth to a little baby boy called Ezra Raymond. He was born on the 29th of September. So he's a few weeks old now. I'm just finally getting around to doing this. And yes, I'm a bit disheveled. Having a newborn and a toddler in the house is hard work, especially when your newborn doesn't sleep very much, but that is a whole nother video in itself. So I've had a lot of questions about the birth and messages, so I just wanted to kind of do a whole separate video and just talk about what happened. And yes, again, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I also have a 2.5-year-old daughter called Lucy and an 8-year-old son called Jackson. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So Ezra was born on Friday night, the 29th of September, so I had to think about it. So on Thursday, I finished work up the week beforehand. On Thursday, me and Lucy went for my 39-week checkup at the hospital, and they did a stretch and sweep on me, and at that appointment they also booked me to have my waters broken on Sunday. Jackson was a very big baby. He was 8 pounds 9 or something around that. He was very big, and I had quite a few complications because he was so large. I had 2 third-degree tears, which were nasty, and I also hemorrhaged a fair bit of blood. So this baby, I was running quite large. They didn't want me to go overdue, so they wanted me to either go into natural labor before my due date, or they were going to induce me. So they'd done a stretch and sweep on the Thursday and booked me in to be induced on the Sunday, which would have made me like 39 weeks and like 5 days or 6 days or something. So just before my due date. Anyway, so when I got the stretch and sweep done, which was the first time I'd ever had that done, I wasn't also expecting to have that done on Thursday, as I had Lucy with me, so that was a bit difficult, but she was so good. She sat there and held my hand while I had the procedure, and she was so lovely. So God bless that girl. She put up with so many doctor's appointments and sitting around waiting rooms for hours on end, and she was a little trooper. So anyway, had stretch and sweep, came home. Although the lady said that I would have some slight spotting, like some bleeding afterwards, I had a fair bit, not like a fair bit, but like noticeably, like, you know, a fair amount. Like I had to wear a pad, and I also noticed some like mucus in it. So my instant thoughts were my mucus plug is coming out, like things might be moving along. I was also getting like really bad Braxton Hicks or mild contractions, but not very consistent. So I rang Luke up, and he was at work. It was only like 3 o'clock, so he would only be finishing an hour early, and I said, look, you know, this is happening, maybe you should just come home, because where he was working at the time was like a 45-minute drive. So I just didn't want things to escalate. And I'll just explain, like, the reason why we kind of were erring on such the caution side this time around is because when I fell into labor with Lucy, I gave birth within 3 hours. Like, it was super quick. We just got to the hospital, like, you know, on time, and they warned me that your subsequent births can go quicker. So I just didn't want to be stuck in a situation where we didn't make it to the hospital. So anyway, rushed Luke home. Things died off a little bit. I was still getting like a little bit of pain, but not a hell of a lot. We then sent Lucy off to Luke's sister's house because, again, I just had this feeling I was going to go into labor that night. I didn't want to waste that time getting her to Luke's sister's house on her way to the hospital. So we sent her to Luke's sister's house that night. You know, I went for a big walk around the block with Luke to try and like move things along, but nothing was really happening. So I kind of went to bed and woke up the next morning, and I had like a mild Braxton Hicks when I woke up, but nothing crazy. So I kind of felt like a bit stupid that I'd sent Lucy away to Luke's sister's house and rah-de-rah when nothing actually happened. I was booked in for another appointment at the doctor's that morning to go and get monitored, just to see how the stretch and sweep went. So that was in at 8 o'clock. So we rang Luke's sister up and said, look, we're going to go to this appointment. We'll then pick up Lucy on the way because like nothing's happening. It looks like we'll probably be doing the induction on Sunday. So this is Friday morning. I on my way to the hospital, I started getting contractions. I was timing them. They were fairly, you know, kind of 6 minutes apart, and they were hurting, but not like really, really hurting. So I was like, something's kind of happening. We went to the appointment and they hooked me up the monitors, and you could see my contractions were kind of like hitting that 60 mark, and I was getting them like, you know, every 4 to 5 minutes. So the doctor came around and looked at it and went, you know, you're definitely having contractions. He didn't examine me or anything. He was just like, the baby's heartbeat's great. Why don't you go home, run yourself a hot bath, and when it starts getting to the point where like you can't handle the pain, then come back in. I'm probably going to see you sometime within the next 24 hours to have this baby. And I was like, okay. By the time of us finishing that appointment and walking to the car, the contractions became like way more intense. Still bearable, but like there was no doubt in my mind these were contractions. They weren't just Braxton Hicks, they weren't just me being uncomfortable, these were definitely contractions. So we walked to the car. This was probably about midday. About 12 o'clock, we went and got some food, we drove home. By the time we got home, like some of the contractions had brought me to tears. Like they were pretty painful. So I was like, you know, we just left the hospital, like do we go back? We didn't know whether to kind of risk it, you know, is this going to escalate really quickly like it did with Lucy and we're not going to make it back in time, bearing in mind that we are about 25-minute drive to the hospital. But I was like, no, look, I don't think that like bad enough. So Luke ran me a bath and I sat in the bath. I got out of the bath and they were getting way more intense, way closer together. And I'm like, look, let's go to the hospital. Like these are really starting to really hurt. So this was about 2 o'clock. We got in the car, drove to the hospital, got to the hospital about 2:25 in the afternoon. Checked in, and by that point the contractions were not getting closer together, but just way more intense. Like they were really hurting, like bringing tears to my eyes. I couldn't talk to people while I was having contractions. I could only just like focus on getting through the pain. So that was, yeah, about 2:25. Walked into the birthing suite. The lady like did a Doppler. I'll also link my birth vlog down below for you guys to watch if you haven't seen it, because a lot of this footage will like coincide with the story. So you can have a look at that. But the lady like did a Doppler on my belly, checked the baby's heart rate, and it was fine. She asked if my water had broken, and I thought it might have broken a little bit when I got out of the car, but in hindsight I think I just peed myself. But I wasn't exactly sure. And she's like, she knew my history of having a quick labor with Lucy, so she was just straight up, I think you're gonna have this baby like really soon. I'm not gonna bother doing an examination. Do you want to hop in the shower like you did with Lucy and run the hot water on your back, and we'll just get things prepped, because I think this is gonna happen soon. I was like, whoa, okay. Another like crazy hospital bathtub birth like Lucy. So I went in the shower and kind of got on fours, and Luke ran the hot water on my back while they were frantically in the background getting ready for the baby, like getting the bed and towels and all their medical stuff out ready. While I was contracting, I was getting more of a bloody show. While I was there, again, I didn't know if my waters had broken. And that went on for a few hours. They thought like the baby was coming, like the nurses are there pretty much with their hands out, like ready to catch the guy. And yeah, nothing was happening. The contractions were just really freaking hurting. So it got to like 5:30 and they were kind of like, look, we can keep doing what we're doing because you're laboring really well. We just, you know, stay in the shower and you just keep going, or we get you on the bed, we have an examination and see exactly how many centimeters dilated you are. At that point, I was starting to get really uncomfortable. I mean, it was super painful. They were getting close. I was like getting a bit disorientated. I hadn't had any pain relief, no gas, no nothing at that point. And I had talked to Luke about wanting to have an epidural with this pregnancy if it didn't go super quick. With Lucy and Jackson, I wasn't able to have any pain relief, or Lucy came too quick. I couldn't have any pain relief. And Jackson, I had heaps of complications and I wasn't allowed to have an epidural. I could only have the gas, and the gas made me spew at that point. So anyway, I mentioned that to Luke, that this time I kind of wanted to have an epidural. Like I wanted to, you know, have that experience of not having a crazy amount of pain. Especially if the baby was large and there was a possibility of me tearing again. So the nurses, and I was a bit incoherent, like I couldn't really answer the nurses when they were asking me these questions. And thank God for Luke, he piped up and said, look, I think she's kind of thinking an epidural, I think we should get her on the bed and examine her. And they're like to me, oh, are you sure we want to do that, are you sure? And I was just like in my pain management zone and I'm like, I can't talk to you or question, like I can't do this right now, I'm in so much pain. And Luke's like, look, listen to me, like let's get her on the bed. And I'm like, yep, let's do it. And they're like, oh okay. So they got me in the bed. So they got me on the bed, they examined me, found out that A, my waters hadn't broken, and B, I was only 6 centimeters dilated. So at that point I was like, hell no, I'm in heaps of pain, I want the epidural. And they were like, well, we've got 2 options. I can break your waters manually and I reckon you'll have this baby within an hour, like you'll dilate really quickly and we'll get this over and done with. Or I don't break your waters, you get the epidural, we then, like, you know, break them after your epidural. That'll probably slow down your labor and you'll have your baby sometime tonight. I'd heard how painful it was to get your waters broken manually, and I was like, nah, I don't want you to break my waters, I want the epidural. And they kind of tried to talk me out of it, but I was like, look, I've had 2 natural labors, there's no need for this, like, you know, they were kind of like saying, oh, you know, are you sure you want to go? Like, I don't know, I thought that maybe I was copping out on it, which is just freaking ridiculous in my mind. But yeah, I was like, look, I've had 2 natural births, I'm fine, I've had that experience, I want an epidural. So they got the anaesthetist to come in. It was a super busy night at the hospital. There was birthing something like 9 or 10 babies that night, so it was crazy busy. Anaesthetist came in to give you my epidural. That was a bit of a shambles. They didn't have he scrubbed up, they didn't have the right apron or something, so he couldn't go ahead and start it straight away. When he did start giving the epidural, he dropped the anesthetic on the floor, so they had to go get another syringe of anesthetic because obviously you can't use one dropped on the floor. Then he proceeded to give me the epidural. I had this weird sensation down one leg, which I voiced about, and he was like, that's not right. Took out the epidural, I had to redo it again. So I had 2 massive epidural needles in my spine. Like, he redid it twice. And that was just a horrendous experience in itself. And then he kind of laid me down, gave me the drug, and was like, look, I'll come back in 15 minutes and do like an ice test and see exactly how numb you are and exactly where you're numb. He came back, did the ice test, and found out that I was only numb on the left side of my body. So my right side, I could feel everything. I could feel every contraction, but only centralized in the right side of my back and my right side of my pelvis. Winning. He tried to like take the needle out and reposition a little bit, or like move it around or something to see if they could get the drug going down my right hand side, but they couldn't. So he said, oh, this sometimes happens, and sorry, but yeah, you're only numb down one side. And I was like, great, awesome anaesthetist, awesome. So he left, and I was still feeling every single contraction in my right hand side. So you'll notice if you watch the birth vlog that I started using the gas, and I had to use the gas to get me through those contractions because I could still totally feel them. It was just only on one side though. So I used the gas, which didn't make me spew this time, so that was great, and I just pumped the gas. Then it became, so they did that like, you know, about, I don't know, 6 o'clock. My waters then broke at about 7:30, and they exploded. Like, Luke could hear it. Like, there was like a pop, and I was just like, holy crap, my waters just broke, like exploded. And Luke was like, holy crap, was that your waters? Like, it sounded like a balloon had burst, like intensely burst. So that happened about 7:30, and they examined me, and I think I was about 8 centimeters then. And apparently with the epidural, they can only examine you every couple of hours. My waters had broken, and it was about like 8:45, and I was like, look, I'm feeling heaps of pressure. Like, when these contractions come, I can feel heaps of pressure down there. And they're like, oh, well, we're not due to examine you until like 10:30 or something, because my waters had broken at 8:30. And I was like, okay. So went through a few more contractions, sucking on the gas, and I'm like, look, the pressure's getting like crazy intense. This was at like 9 o'clock, 9:05. And they're like, oh, look, you know, we're not supposed to check like how many centimeters dilated you are, but I'll lift up the sheet and just kind of have a look down there. She lifts up the sheet and pulls the sheet down, and she's like, okay, so I can see ahead. I think you're ready to push. And I was like, told you. So they brought in all these other nurses who got a bit frantic because I don't think she was expecting to see like the head like ready to come out. They wanted me to push like really slow and really take my time because I'd had so many previous tears and because this baby was fairly decent. So yeah, this was about 9:05. Ezra was born at 17 minutes past 9. I pushed 3 pushes. 2 pushes got his head out. I then breathed through like about 3 or 4 minutes, went through 1 contraction, and on the next one I pushed out the rest of him. He wanted me to take the pushing really slow because of the risk of tears, and he was a fairly decent size, well, so they thought. And yeah, I pushed him out really slow. I was so proud of myself because if anyone's had kids out there, you know how hard it is to stop your body from pushing when that's all you want to do. Like, I had his head out and I had to wait an excruciating like 3 or 4 minutes before I could push the rest of him out. That is self-control. That is self-control at its epitome. Anyway, so yeah, and then he was born at 9:17. I didn't have any tears, I didn't have any grazes, I didn't have any hemorrhages afterwards, so woohoo. And yeah, that was pretty much it. It was what, like 7 hours? No, 7 hours from when I got to the hospital, but it was probably a 9-hour labor in total. Although the epidural failed, I still had a really good experience. Like, it hurt like freaking hell, but he was you know, he came out happy and healthy, and I was happy and healthy. And there were a few points during my labor where his heart rate dipped a little bit and I had to change positions, or they were a little bit concerned about it, but he was all good and he came out. And yeah, he was 8 pounds exactly and 52 centimeters long, and he was gorgeous. I will insert some clips of him now, but he is the most precious little thing. He totally completes our family. We are so lucky to have him, and I was really happy with our birthing experience. The experience at the hospital a couple of days later, on the other hand, was shit. Our hospital is shit. They just forgot I existed. I had a catheter in because I had the epidural. They forgot to take it out until 10 hours later. They forgot I was vegetarian on like all of the occasions I got food, so they keep giving me meat, which I couldn't eat. So lucky I had Luke bringing me food, otherwise I would have starved or just lived off crackers and cheese. You know, what else? They forgot to send the doctor to come give Ezra his checkup, his final checkup. So we sat around the hospital for a whole entire day waiting for a doctor who didn't even know we existed, until I piped up like 4 times going, where is the doctor? I want to go home. And they chased it up and she was like, oh, they never told me. Like, I didn't have you on my list. We didn't know you had the baby. And I was like, what? Yeah, it was just ridiculous. I also had to have an anti-D injection, as I had to have throughout my pregnancy, and they tried to give it to me twice until I was like, hang on, I've already had that done. They were just useless. Like, or they just forgot about me. Like, I didn't even friggin' exist, and insisted on doing my OBS at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, what? So yeah, the hospital was shit. The midwives birthing and the birthing suite were truly amazing. We had fantastic midwives. They were the best girls ever, and I'm so glad we had them. And the birthing suite was amazing. Just the hospital staff and our hospital stay afterwards was rubbish. But hey, this is it. That's it. Our last pregnancy, our last baby. We're not going back for number 4. So yeah, I can't believe it's all done. Like, although, yeah, like although I'm glad I'm not pregnant and I don't have to go through that again, I'm also a little bit sad because yeah, I'm never gonna experience that again. I'm never gonna be in that situation. So yeah, it is a little bit sad, but we're happy he's here. And thank you so much for sitting through this long-winded blabbering video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you do have any questions, please ask them down below, because I love chatting with you guys, because you guys are amazing. And yeah, I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video, and don't forget, we're putting out videos every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss out on them. Bye.